Hello and welcome to True Crime with Ronke. Thank you so much for joining me today. If true crime is your thing, kindly subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Let's take a look at this case. It's January 1st, 2022. Fireworks are lighting up the sky. And everywhere you look, people are laughing, dancing, and hugging. The whole place feels so full of life. Music is blasting, phones will stop buzzing with the Happy New Year messages, and everyone is just excited for a new beginning. Families are together, friends are clinking glasses and swapping stories. Honestly, it feels like one of those days you never want to end. In the middle of all the fun, Sibusiso Sithebe gets a phone call. So he steps away from the noise, smiling a little, and answers it. Hello, he says. We don't know who is on the other end of the call, but we know that it was the last time his loved ones saw him. Just like that. 1 second he is there, and the next he is gone. Days after, Sibusiso Sithebe's family were completely overwhelmed. They had tried everything, contacting police, reaching out to people in the community, and using social media, but there was no sign of him. Until they remembered someone who could help them in their search. Their family friend worked at a telecommunications company, which was the same network provider that Sithebe's mobile phone was linked to. So they asked the person to analyze Sithebe's cell phone log to find out who he spoke to just before he went missing. And the analysis provides a significant lead in this case. But more details on that in a bit. Before we go further, let me tell you a little bit about Sibusiso Sithebe, whom we will simply refer to as Sithebe. This guy was a taxi driver, and people described him as dependable, friendly, and humorous. His girlfriend, Lerato Mahlangu, had his first daughter in 2014, but the two separated shortly after their baby's birth. Sithebe's second daughter was born from another woman who was his girlfriend just before his disappearance. Now, back to the phone log analysis. Who called Sithebe before he vanished? Well, it turns out that the last caller on his phone was his ex-girlfriend and the mother of his first daughter, Lerato, which was unusual because the two had not been in touch for about 7 years. As soon as Sithebe's sister, Lina, gets the lead, she heads fast to Lerato's house to inquire about her missing brother. Maybe, just maybe, Lerato could provide something or just anything about her brother's whereabouts. All Lina wanted was a clue, a direction, a name, anything that can bring her brother back. But when she gets there, she finds out Lerato is going through a difficult time herself. Her husband just recently died and she was grieving. Lina felt helpless and confused. She didn't want to appear selfish or insensitive. But she's thinking on one hand, is this the right time to ask questions? And on the other, she's thinking, but I need to know where my brother is. And time is of the essence. So as uncomfortable as she felt, Lina asked Lerato about her brother, which makes Lerato feel she is rather insensitive to be asking about her brother in her distressed state. So Lena went home without any new information about her missing brother. But just the feeling of pity for Lerato, because not only was she now a widow, but her daughter's dad was also missing. Lerato's dead husband was Sibusiso Mahlangu, whom we will call Mahlangu going forward. He was a part-time videographer and they married in 2018. The couple had 2 daughters of their own, but they lived as a family of 5 with the addition of Lerato's daughter from a relationship with Sithebe. So, how did Lerato's husband die? On January 2nd, 2022, alarmed neighbors noticed a fire from Lerato and Mahlangu's home. From the outside, it appeared no one was at home, and they were certain that Lerato was at work in Mpumalanga, which was about 3 hours away. She was a sales consultant with an insurance company. The neighbors tried desperately to put the fire out while they waited for the firefighters. They also called the couple, but could only reach Lerato. When she arrives at the scene, she has one question on her lips. Where is my husband? Where is my husband? All the while, neighbors were trying to put out the fire. They had no idea that someone was at home. When she could finally make her way into the house, Lerato found her husband's body on the bed. It was burned, and she became inconsolable. When the police arrived at the scene, as part of their investigation, they asked Lerato to identify the body in the house. And in a distressed state, she confirms that the body is her husband's. As proof, she shows the police the wedding ring on his finger and even the clothing on his body, which all belonged to her husband, Mahlangu. This case was closed as a tragic accident. Then on April 20, 2023, something unusual happens. A man was caught driving a stolen vehicle somewhere in town. Following his arrest, his fingerprints were processed and it was discovered that he was registered as a man who had died over a year earlier in a house fire. As the investigation progresses, police begin to connect the dots that they might be dealing with an insurance fraud case. The man in custody is Mahlangu, Lerato's husband. Shortly after his arrest, a woman walks into the police station to see Mahlangu. She appears confused. Her steps are slow and uncertain. Soon her eyes settle on Mahlangu, her brother. She blinks as if trying to clear her vision. It's been over a year since she attended his funeral, yet here he stands, alive and in police custody. They couldn't believe it when her mother called, saying Lerato had contacted her to report that Mahlangu had been arrested. Even now, as she stares at him, she can't believe her eyes. She reaches out to touch him, needing to be sure. But she's not satisfied. Suddenly, she remembers something else. Her brother had tattoos. She looks at his body, and there they are. Then on repeat, she asks him, who did we bury? Tell me, who did we bury? The man who was killed and buried was Sithebe, Lerato's ex and the father of her first daughter. But when news broke that Mahlangu was alive, the puzzle pieces started coming together for a lot of people. Many relatives, friends, and neighbors exclaimed, no wonder. Looking back, things started to add up. One of what people found unusual was the funeral arrangements. Here's the thing. In South African traditions, especially among Black communities, funerals are sacred and deeply spiritual. Typically, on Friday, close family members quietly gather at the funeral home to view and identify the body. Then on Saturday, the casket is open for public viewing. Neighbors, friends, and extended family come to pay their last respects. While the widow is expected to stay indoors, wear black, and mourn as a sign of respect to the ancestors. Family elders are the ones in charge of identifying the body at the mortuary, washing it, and staying with it until burial. However, it is alleged that Lerato didn't religiously follow all the traditional rites as she ought to. I didn't get a lot of information about where Mahlangu was hiding away, but he did mention in court that he had to change locations every month, and at one point he allegedly stayed over at his mistress' house. Nevertheless, he got back with his family later because Lerato testified in court that he told the children to start addressing him as Angel instead of Daddy, so that the relatives wouldn't recognize when they spoke about him. At this stage of the investigation, police want to confirm their suspicion that the man in the grave was Sithebe, which is why the body was exhumed for forensic examination. But just before we go into the findings from the forensic examination, let's take a step back to October 2021, when Lerato reached out to her ex out of the blue because she wanted him to reunite with his daughter. She talked about how she wanted him to visit her regularly and just be there for her. Sithebe was over the moon because Lerato blocked him from seeing his daughter for so many years. She explained that her job had taken her away from Shashanguve to Mpumalanga, and she will be in touch once it is convenient to set up the reunion. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the co-conspirators were setting the stage for their evil plot. They had submitted the life insurance policy for Mahlangu and were waiting to strike. Mind you, the insurance company in question is Lerato's employer. This is the same organization where she rose through the ranks and was promoted to the position of sales consultant. Now, some netizens believe that it was Lerato who presented the idea to her husband to defraud her employer. Some other netizens believe that Mahlangu was the one that thought of the idea and presented it to his wife. No one can tell, but one thing is clear. At some point, there was a conspiracy between the two. They wanted to get rich and were ready to kill for it. Lerato submitted 3 claims for insurance policies taken out in her husband's name. The claims were for life cover, death benefit, and funeral cover, and totaled 575,000 rand. So Lerato readily forfeited her promising job for a life of crime. It was unimaginable to Lerato's family. According to them, she changed when Mahlangu came into her life, and the once loving and respectful lady became withdrawn and even stopped attending family gatherings. They say Sithebe and Mahlangu were two opposites, and Lerato's family never got on with Mahlangu. They describe him as arrogant and disrespectful and a bad influence on Lerato. Back to the DNA test conducted on the exhumed body. It was compared with Sithebe's relatives, but the family had to wait another couple of months before getting the forensics report, and it matched. Pathology testing showed that not only was Sithebe still alive when the house was set on fire, but he was also intoxicated at the time of his death. This was probably to prevent him from saving himself. While Sithebe was missing, Lina attended a burial at the same gravesite, completely unaware that she was standing just a few meters from where her brother's body lay. After a year of not knowing, Sithebe's family finally got answers, even though they wished he was still alive. For years, all Sithebe wanted was a chance to be in his first daughter's life. But Lerato pushed him away no matter how hard he tried. Which is why he didn't want to waste a second when he got a call during the New Year celebration. To him, everything else could wait. What he didn't know was that it was all a setup. His ex-lover was planning an insurance scam and she needed his body. Lerato knew exactly what Sithebe couldn't resist. His little girl. He missed her deeply and longed to see her again. And Lerato knew that, so she used his love for his daughter to get him to come over to her house. And when he did, she and her husband unalived him, just so they could cash in on an insurance payout. For over a year, Sithebe was lying in the wrong grave and buried by the wrong people. But he has since been laid to rest by his rightful family, and their prayer is that his spirit will finally find peace. Sibusiso Mahlangu and his wife Lerato were convicted of the insurance murder of Lerato's ex-partner Sithebe and were sentenced to life imprisonment. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe so that you don't miss the next case. Please stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.